Welcome to the Edgeworth Echoes podcast, discovering Edgeworthstown, a hidden gem of Irish history.
Welcome to another edition of the Edgeworth Echoes podcast. This is your host, John. It's a new year and time to get back on the air. As so often happens, ideas for podcast episodes come from new discoveries or acquisitions at the Maria Edgeworth Center, and it was an acquisition that inspires this episode. The acquisition in this case was a roll book dating back to the time period when the centre was a national school. It also allows me to revisit the topic of education once more, a subject very much entwined with the story of the Edgeworths and the history of the parish. Back in the early 2000s, a group of people came together to form the Edgeworthstown Heritage and Historical Group and published a history of the parish in 2003 called Ó Theach Go Teach. One section of that book dealt with the story of schools, using extracts from the book Primary Schools in County Longford, written by Jimmy Casey, Sean Cahill and John Carthy, and I am grateful to both groups for allowing me to use some information in this episode. According to the 1826 education report, there were two schools in the town that relied on Mr. Edgeworth, who had paid for the school buildings as well as paying the salaries of the teachers. There was a boys' school which cost £750 and was described as a well-built, slated building with ball courts and had an attendance of 220 pupils. The girls' school, also a slated building costing £165, had 54 pupils. The schools had a mix of pupils from Catholic, Anglican and Presbyterian religious backgrounds. There were two teachers in the boys' school, one Protestant and one Catholic, and the teacher in the girls' school was a Protestant. This all fitted in with the Edgeworths' opinion that education should be restricted to the teacher, while religious instruction should be carried out by the local clergy. Education in the parish was not confined to the town alone. The rural areas of the parish had several schools, although in more modest accommodations. Many were housed in mud-walled, thatched buildings, reflecting the economic realities of rural Ireland at this time. In Lisnagrish, John Keary ran a school in a simple mud-walled thatched house, teaching 52 pupils. In Lacken, Philip Dolan was the master in a miserable mud-wall cabin, instructing 35 pupils. Curry School, led by John Gaynor, had 25 pupils, and Bridget Farrell taught in Longfield, with the highest number of pupils among these rural schools at 61. And each of these schools had a mix of religious backgrounds. The 1938 Folklore Project collected stories from around the country, and Edgeworthstown was no exception. This following extract has some descriptions of hedge schools in the parish.
Some years ago, a hedge school was situated in Kilsalla. The schoolmaster dwelt in the school. His name was Master Carey. Long ago, there was an old hedge school in Lisnagrish. The school was an old big house like a barn. The master's name was Keary. Another hedge school was situated where Paddy Marshall is living now. The master's name was Dan Levy. The children that would go to the hedge school would have to bring to the master eggs, cabbage, potatoes, tea, and sugar. Those masters were very proud, and they thought they could rule everyone. At Lisnana, it is said that Mick Green taught lessons.
Another important educational influence came from the Kildare Place Society, an organisation dedicated to promoting non-denominational education in Ireland. This society was founded in 1811 by a group of philanthropic men, among whom were Samuel Bewley, J. D. Latouche, William L. Guinness and Joseph Devonshire. The society provided teacher training and grants to schools and provided assistance and information to local associations, and they supported two schools in Corboy. The first school was taught by William Deacon, a Protestant master, in a stone and lime building with a thatched roof. His school had a mixed student body of 98 pupils. The second school, taught by John Kenny, also a Protestant, was housed in a whitewashed, plastered thatched house. This school had 78 pupils. How long these schools lasted we do not know, but the establishment of the national school system in 1831, which took a lot of its structural inspiration from the work of the Kildare Place Society, meant new schools were formally established, and we are going to look at one, the building that now houses the Maria Edgeworth Center, but was originally established as a primary school built in 1840. The school had a roll number 2083, but it seems to have existed earlier under roll number 1417. One of the signatories of the application for the building of the school was the world-famous author and storyteller Maria Edgeworth. The other signatories were C.J. Edgeworth Esquire, Thomas Gray, parish priest, and Lawrence Reynolds. A grant of £110 for building, £10 for furnishing, and £6 for privies was sanctioned on the 22nd of February 1840, and that was followed by an application for salaries to hire 2 teachers. On the 25th of May 1841, the Superintendent of National Schools, William Aylward, visited the school and had this to report.
The master has been at the head of a public school for the last 4 years in a neighbouring parish, previous to which he conducted a school in Manchester, from which he has good testimonials. The mistress taught school for the last 18 years in this town under the patronage of Miss Honora Edgeworth of the Edgeworth family. The school had been opened for boys on Monday, 26th April 1841, and for girls on Monday, 3rd May 1841. The children learning the first elements pay 1 penny a week, and children more advanced pay 2 pennies a week. John Hanlon is respectable in appearance and is capable of teaching reading, writing, arithmetic, grammar, and knows a bit of geography and geometry. Mrs. Gahon is a most excellent person and can give instruction in reading, spelling, orthography, writing, short accounts, and needlework. There are 106 boys and 91 girls on rolls, and there is an average attendance of 63 boys and 52 girls.
The school was briefly closed in late 1891 due to an outbreak of typhoid in the parish that lasted into early 1892, as recorded by the local doctor Joseph Langan. A day off to allow the staff to attend the Mullingar races in 1897 was disapproved of. The school thrived until the 1950s, when a decision was made to build a new national school on the Ballymahon Road at a cost of £4,775. Richard Hyland was the last principal of the school when it was closed, and the new boys' school opened in 1953. This school and St Elizabeth's were amalgamated as St Mary's in 2001. Education did not completely stop at the old school, as locals referred to it. It was used as a vocational education centre for a number of years, and there were music classes held in it as well. So that ends this episode of the Edgeworth Echoes podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode and will continue to listen and share the stories we tell on here. There are more wonderful stories to listen to at the Maria Edgeworth Center, and we hope you will visit to listen to them. Until the next time. If you are interested in learning more about the Society and the history they preserve, please visit www.mariaedgeworthcenter.com. You can sign up to our newsletter, book tours, learn about our annual literary festival, and read up on some of the remarkable people who have links to our town.
This has been the Edgeworth Echoes podcast, rediscovering history.